Burnout, the very first game in this critically acclaimed series. I previously did a challenge with Burnout 2 where I beat all of the Custom Series Championship as the worst car in the game. If you saw that video, you may be wondering why I chose to do a challenge run of the second game before the first. And I really don't have any clue. Burnout released in 2001 for the PlayStation 2 and later in 2002 for the Xbox and GameCube. With this being the very first title in the series, it was a bit basic, but Burnout was finding its way and would eventually become a beloved racing game franchise. The main game is played through the championship mode. Here, you're put up against 3 other cars in a circuit-style race where you have a time limit to advance to various checkpoints throughout the course. On top of this, you also have a placement requirement to advance to the next race. In the beginning, you only have a few cars to choose from, but as you progress, you can unlock more through the face-off mode, which becomes available as you complete Grand Prix in the championship mode. There are 4 unlockable cars, which are Roadster, Tow Truck, Saloon GT, and Bus. The Bus, while not only being the last unlockable, is also the worst vehicle in the entire game, having the lowest top speed, handling, and acceleration stats, while also being incredibly long and bulky, making crashes almost unavoidable. This is obviously a joke vehicle. It's not meant to be taken seriously or played competitively, which is exactly the type of vehicle I'm looking for. So let's see if you could beat Burnout using only the Bus. For this challenge, I'll be attempting to complete all of the Grand Prix and marathons in the championship mode. There are 4 Grand Prix in total with 3 tracks each, and 2 marathons, which are large 3-lap courses. I also chose to play on the GameCube version. No particular reason for that though. To avoid getting too familiar with the courses and keeping my playthrough blind, I dug up a save file on my uncle's real GameCube memory card because he worked at Burnout and had everything unlocked. Before I begin, I'll briefly explain how the races work. They're very similar to the Grand Prix in Burnout 2, with some slight differences. When racing in a Grand Prix, you're given a required position to finish in. There are no points given when a race is finished, so as long as you meet the placement requirement, you're good to go. The races are circuit style, where you have a limited time to reach a checkpoint in the course. When you pass through a checkpoint, more time is added onto your timer. If you run out of time, you're forced to restart the race. You're given 3 credits per Grand Prix. If you use them all, it's back to the very beginning if you lose. You have a boost meter that slowly fills during each race by drifting, nearly missing oncoming traffic, or driving on the wrong side of the road. The boost meter can only be used when it's full. In the sequel, if you use the boost meter and let go of it before it depletes, you have to fill it up to use it again. But in this game, you can use it sporadically after the meter is full. If you do enough reckless driving and drifting while boosting, you can trade your boosts and keep them going. If you're not careful and are speeding on down the road, you can crash into other vehicles, walls, or other things. Crashes will put you at a dead stop and cause you to lose some of your boost meter, but will also cost thousands of dollars in damages. In this first installment in the Burnout franchise, crashing is so easy to the point that the wiki calls it one of the hardest games in the series. It's inevitable that you'll crash, but if you even slightly graze a crash site that you didn't even cause, the game will count it as you crashing too, which will eventually make you crash out. And that's everything. So let's get underway.
Yeah.
I started off with the Journeyman Grand Prix. The first race is on Interstate. That's all it's called. Kinda reminds me of the off-brand food they bought in Everybody Hates Chris. To beat this race, I'll need to finish in 3rd place or better. But before the race began, I got a good comparison of how the bus looks compared to the other cars.
Holy shit.
The bus accelerates so slowly and turning is very stiff. Although, once you get your speed up to near maximum, it can hold its own with the other cars. Interstate is a basic course for Burnout. Some racing on the highway, then transitioning to a bit of the city. It wasn't anything I hadn't already experienced in the second game, though my previous experience actually really helped me out a lot here. I was kicking ass in the first 2 laps. Midway through the 3rd, I got to utilize the bus's biggest strength, blocking.
God, it worked. Holy crap, dude. That was awesome.
I did get a little too comfortable with this further on down the road, though.
$45,000?
That one crash almost caused me to run out of time, which I've never had to worry about before. But in the end, I passed the race finishing in 2nd. Next up is Harbor Town. Again, I have to place in 3rd to advance. This seemingly tandem ride throughout the mountains and city is where the issues would start to arise. Harbor Town has a lot of turns, and they're not all that bad if you're driving a regular vehicle, but you're guaranteed to hit some walls if you choose the bus as your champion. The time to reach each checkpoint is much tighter now too, so mistakes can only be few and far in between. For the first time ever in Burnout, I had actually gone so slow that I timed out. The timer in this game is not very forgiving. My next try, I unfortunately did even worse.
He cut me off.
It's just so easy to crash while driving this thing. After resetting, I made it back to the checkpoint that I nearly missed, but was quickly met with some more misfortune.
Oh, holy sh**, dude, are you kidding me? Holy it's so mean.
Sometimes you just have to laugh at the ridiculousness. My fourth and final time, I was starting to get Harbor Town down, and actually made it to the final lap. Midway through, I was running out of time, but also closing in on the next checkpoint. A crash would barely keep me from reaching it, and I had to start all over. It wasn't so bad given that it was my first run through with the bus, but the tracks in Burnout are lengthy, and a full reset will set you back a good chunk of time. Jumping back in, I was cruising down the interstate, and eventually took the lead in the final lap. I almost lost it too.
No, it's the end.
Luckily, the car behind me also crashed, and I passed through in first place. Now it was time to tackle Harbor Town again, and this time I was more prepared.
That kind of f***ed it already.
Sorta. Since the bus is far more accident prone, you have to use your brakes more than you would in any racing game to slow down enough to prevent a crash. Braking and drifting help out a ton, though the latter is a bit hard to execute with the bus. Since I only had to finish in third place, not too slow and steady was the key to victory. The final race is in River City. Here, we have to drive through rush hour traffic and throughout a busy downtown area. The finishing position changes from third to second now too, so you gotta crank up the heat a bit more. While this course is a lot more friendly for the bus, there's still plenty of things to look out for, like four-way intersections, roundabouts, and a very tight U-turn.
Excuse me, guys. I really need to make this turn.
I went into this course with my full amount of credits, completely expecting to reset after my first try, which I did, but I discovered something right before that.
So close. Wait. Oh my god, because I slid into it, it gave it to me anyway.
Yup, if you run out of time, you have about an extra second to clear the checkpoint if you're close enough and have momentum built. It kept my run alive for a little bit longer, and even though it died as previously mentioned, it was still a pretty cool moment to witness. Now that I knew what to expect in this course, I played it faster and more reckless. A few crashes here and there, including one right near the end with not a whole lot of time left.
Son of a...
But I was still able to secure second place and beat the Journeyman Grand Prix. Since there's no points or trophies to hand out, after you finish a Grand Prix, you get sent back to the main menu. No congratulations, sorry that happened, just get back to work. Which is exactly what I did now that I could move on to the Big Run Grand Prix. It starts off in Hillside Pass. You start out driving through a neighborhood, then take some back roads onto a highway and loop around again. There's a segment where you have to make some harsh twists and turns, but if you go slow enough, you can just ride down the grass instead. This track puts you through mostly narrow paths, which of course aren't so kind to the bus. It's not too bad overall once you get the hang of it, and only needing to finish in third makes this race an easy one. Unfortunately, this would be the calm before the storm. The second course is in Twilight Harbor. It takes us back to the same area as Harbor Town, but switches the route up. The beginning of this course gives you a false sense of security, since the other cars are prone to getting into crashes pretty quickly. But just as fast as they'll cause their insurance rates to skyrocket, the other cars will catch up to you at the worst possible times and bring you down with them. If the other courses didn't show you why this bus is a joke pick, then Twilight Harbor will. With some of the tightest turns so far, and the other cars driving around terribly and causing more crashes than NPC traffic, you'll be fighting for your life by the third lap if you're lucky enough to make it there without running out of time. You also have to place second to win this race, which in this course is seemingly impossible given how difficult it is for the bus to navigate through it.
Oh, I barely touched you!
I timed out on every attempt, not ever coming close to placing in second. Since Hillside Pass is more or less a free win, I got back to Twilight Harbor pretty fast, and fell victim to the same things.
Nice. Let's go. No one cuts off the bus and gets away with it. Or tries to.
Crashes, timeouts, and crash outs.
No, it was right there. Bastard. You are a...
If you want to have any hope at making it out of here with the bus, you have to play this race to near perfection. You're pretty much hoodwinked by some of the turns you have to do in this course, and in some parts, it's hard to see oncoming traffic. You also have to boost here, but with the bus, there aren't many great spots to use it without risking a crash. The bus was clearly not made for this course at all, and I couldn't make it out of this godforsaken area. So for the sake of my sanity, I called it quits for the night after a few hours of this torture. Rest is important when it comes to completing challenges no one is forcing you to do, and I came back energized and fully focused on making it out of the Team Edward Harbor. The start of my attempts for the day were looking a little more promising than before, but I continuously struggled to get where I needed to be.
Son of a bitch.
After plowing through all my credits once again, I returned to the harbor for another round because I didn't hear no bell. I timed out in the second lap on my first try with my new set of credits. And while I wasn't off to a great start on my reset, I noticed that in the second lap, I was going in and out of second and first place. The third lap is where all hell usually started to break loose. But since I was performing so well, I had plenty of time to spare.
Oh, thank you, God.
That was annoying as I really didn't even mean to style that hard and get first in this race. Crazy how you can fail for hours upon hours just to pull through and win it all when it's not even that necessary. This was a gigantic weight lifted off my shoulders, but there was still one more course left to go. The third and final course is Gridlock USA, with the first place requirement to finish the Grand Prix. While it doesn't really take place in gridlock traffic, there are still plenty of cars to avoid in this downtown race. This course was heaven compared to Twilight Harbor. It's a much more open area, and you aren't required to turn on a dime at any point. With plenty of space for my gargantuan hog of a bus to plow through the competition, I boosted like there was no tomorrow and took first place on my first try. What a relief. Twilight Harbor made it almost seem like this challenge would be nearly impossible. I was so glad to never have to see that area ever again. Instead of a Grand Prix, our next race is a marathon in Euro. You know, like the US currency, but not that. The marathon is one large 3-lap course. And when I say large, I mean this one race will take you nearly 15 minutes to complete all 3 laps, at least with the bus. For a racing game, that feels like an eternity. Everything in the kitchen sink is thrown at you, and the CPUs are no slouches in this marathon either. If you let them get too far ahead of you in this race, then good luck ever catching up to them, because it's not gonna happen. Or that's at least what I thought after playing through this Desert Bus Light marathon for almost an hour. If you can manage to keep the other cars somewhat closely in your sights, they're far more likely to crash, allowing you to catch up or move past them. With the bus, more often than not, you'll find yourself in a position where you fall behind and lose track of the other cars. While this can be pretty discouraging, not all hope is lost. Boosts are going to be your best friend in the marathon race. Now you may want to say, Ray, of course boosting is going to help you win. Are you an idiot? A stupid, dumb idiot? Well, yeah, of course I am. But the bus gives the illusion that boosting is futile while the lead car is seemingly leaps and bounds ahead of you. And while the other cars will typically rubber band and catch up to you pretty quickly, they won't always be traveling at Mach speeds while in the lead. If you can manage to chain your boosts and keep your crashes to a minimum, a bus in last place with no sight of first can absolutely find the strength and plot armor it needs to win it all by the end. My point is, never give up. Trust your instincts, but also don't choke on the last turn in the final lap.
No way, dude. At the very end? Not again! Can I stop him? No. Damn it!
With the first marathon finished, our bus makes a stop at the Savage Streets Grand Prix to show everyone how street racing is really done. The first race is called Night Shift, which is similar to Gridlock USA, but in the wee hours of the night. Second place is required for this race, and there's a ton of traffic to avoid, which I did not accomplish on my first or second times. This course would also introduce another issue that hindered the bus's performance. Nearly every time you need to make a turn or pass an intersection, these little street signs will pop up in the middle of the screen for a moment, blocking your view of whatever may be coming at you. And the best part is, you can't turn them off, so you just have to deal with it. This works terribly with the bus's camera view, and adds on so much more frustration. I made it through in first place on my third try, but not before the signs almost got one more over on me.
That stupid sign, man. Enough!
Cliffhanger is next in line and is kind of like a mini boss for the bus. We're back in the Hillside Pass area, which means narrow paths galore. Also, those long curvy turns we had to make downhill that I rushed through before are now uphill, and these turns alone kill runs. Literally, this one section is the one thing that truly holds the bus back, and you can't just drive uphill either. Well, you can, but it's very tricky. Usually, you'll hit this little edge and crash. I spent a good long while on this one. Its only saving grace is that you can move on in second place. But with how close the other cars stick to you, you're gonna be toast when it comes time to make those turns again on the final lap. One attempt, I made it to the dreaded turns in the final lap, where I learned that my worst enemy would briefly become my greatest ally in this race.
Oh my God, you've got to be kidding me. Wait a minute.
When you crash, you respawn after a few seconds, usually a little further ahead from where you stopped. If you crash at the bottom of this area, the game will respawn you a little more than halfway up the hill, skipping the hardest turns and somehow also putting you in the lead if you're lucky enough.
I just crashed my way to first place somehow. I don't know. I don't know how that worked.
The final course is in Midnight Run. It's the downtown area of the Euro Marathon in the dark, and all the worst traffic-heavy segments to boot. If this race is really at midnight, why is everyone on the road instead of back home resting their peepers? The traffic was the biggest annoyance here, and well, maybe also this large U-turn. In the second lap, I was sitting in third place, not too hopeful that I could turn this one around, but playing it clean and cool, I passed through to first place near the beginning of the third lap. The rest of this race was played with care and sensitivity. Any one crash could potentially force a reset. Nearing the end, I was still in the lead, but I could hear one of the cars behind me closing in on my first place spot. I could already tell.
Are you serious? No way. Did I win? Oh my god.
After all the mishaps at the end of the Euro Marathon, I couldn't tell you how good it felt to pull this one off on my first try. One more Grand Prix to go. The final Grand Prix is called Twilight and begins in rush hour. Now, right out of the gate, we have to get first place to advance. This course is nearly all highway driving with a little spot through the city. The timers here are also very short, so you have to be boosting throughout the majority of this track. If you're not careful, even one crash can lead to a timeout and cost you everything. Thank goodness it's the first race in this Grand Prix. The bus's acceleration being so slow makes this one rough to get through. At this point, I had been the designated bus driver for a good long while. And unlike some of the people in this game, I parked my bus and went to bed. First thing in the afternoon, I hopped back in the bus and drove directly into oncoming traffic. This course puts your skills to the test. In the final lap during one of my playthroughs, I was in second place and about to time out again, barely making it through the next checkpoint. First place was in my sights after the car ahead of me crashed, but I'd do the same not long after.
Respawn! Hurry up and respawn!
Crashing into victory would come in handy again, though. Country Chaos was up, and oh my lord, the turns are back again. I like the idea Burnout has with using one large area and cutting it up into smaller courses, but man, I wish they would have given me any other route. I tried crashing into first place again, but it was no use. I burned through all my credits and got sent back to the beginning. Usually this isn't the worst thing in the world, but Rush Hour is such a difficult track to get through, especially when you need to place first. This Grand Prix is truly the final gauntlet. I spent over an hour getting through this course. Eventually, I'd find the first place finish I was striving for. The nerves were starting to hit upon my return to Country Chaos. I stayed in third place throughout nearly the whole race, but thanks to crashing and burning in the final lap, I'd take this win to go. Who would have thought that purposefully sucking at driving would be so effective in this challenge? With all 3 credits in hand, I advanced to the final race at Sunset River. Once more, we're driving through the city, this time more against traffic than with it. I quickly put myself out of the race by crashing twice in the first minute and timing out. My second time in was a little more smooth, but first place was so far ahead of me in the third lap that I didn't want to waste any time on a seemingly dead run, so I reset again. My third try, I was finally breezing in first place in the final lap, closing in on the last checkpoint.
I got cocked. Damn it! So close, dude.
Now I had no credits left and one final shot at this course. Once more, everything was going fine up until the end of the final lap.
Oh my god, why did I do that? Wait. Okay, never mind, we're good.
Somehow, some way, none of this affected my placement, and I finished the race in first place. All of the Grand Prix were now completed, which left one final race, the USA Marathon. This marathon takes us all throughout familiar lands, and gives us one final look at these piece of shit turns. At least it's going downhill this time. With this race being so open, it really wasn't all that difficult. On my first try, I was closing in on the end, until one accident kept me from reaching one of the final checkpoints. I killed it on my second try though. These marathon races are really long and honestly kinda boring. As long as you keep your boost meter healthy, you'll have no issues winning this one. Another anticlimactic easy finish in the final race of a challenge run. Or maybe my bus driving skills were just too good. At the end, you get no staff credits, thank you for playings, or victory fanfare. But I finished all the championship races and proved that you can beat Burnout using only the bus. Thank you all so much for watching. I gotta admit, this challenge had me a bit nervous at the start. The bus is really not fun to play as, and the accidents can be so frustrating to get into. But overall, if you play it right, the bus isn't as bad as it looks at first glance. Its slow acceleration and bad handling take a lot of time to get used to, but after chugging the engine a bit and hitting your top speed and boosts, keeping up with the other cars isn't too out of the question. Being the first entry in the Burnout series, this game is just alright. The tracks were pretty repetitive, and the music unfortunately left much to be desired, especially when you compare it to the sequel. Overall, it's not too bad of a game, and you can tell they really stepped it up in later entries. Be sure to hit the like button button if you enjoyed this video. Also, I stream all of my challenge runs live on my Twitch channel and here on YouTube. If you'd like to check that out, be sure to subscribe or follow me on Twitch. The link to my Twitch channel, along with links to my other social media accounts, can be found in the description. If there's a challenge run you'd like to see, you can also check out the description for a direct link where you can submit your ideas. Thanks again for watching, everyone. See you in the next video. Please let this be a normal challenge run. With Ray? No way. Aww. Cruising out on Main Street.